Like you, I've played a lot of JRPGs over the years, and to be honest, there's a fair few that I actually haven't finished for one reason or another. Whether I didn't like the story, or the characters, or maybe just the game overall wasn't that great. There's a few JRPGs that for some reason or another, I just never saw through to the credits. So in today's video, yes, we're talking about games that I never finished or games that I quit on for a number of reasons, and there's quite a few of them, so stick with me. As always, before we get to that, don't forget to like and subscribe and comment down below. Let me know your thoughts on the video. Let me know what games you never finished as well. I'd actually be interested to know. So with that out of the way, let's get to the first one, the most recent one of the video, and that is Fantasian. And this is a game that I actually really enjoyed, and the reason why I didn't finish it was because it just got too hard. You have one way that you can progress the story and progress the game, then you kind of hit this midway point where things change. It's not as linear, it's more quest-based. You can choose which way you want to go in the story, although you do have to pick up some characters because some of your characters in your party have gone missing, and there are level caps where you can either try and get in and get totally plowed by the enemies, or grind a little bit, make your way through, recruit your characters again, and off you go to try and finish the story. The one thing I didn't like about Fantasian is it got super grindy after this second half. And not only that, the game forces you to have certain characters in your party that you might not be used to having. So you have to form strategies that are specific to specific boss fights and also specific to having specific characters in your party. It's very tedious in my opinion. I love this game. I love the aesthetic. I love the vibe. But there was a certain point, 36 hours into the game, that I could not finish. Like I said, I really enjoyed this game. I thought this was a really fun kind of love letter to the Final Fantasy series, especially those classic Final Fantasy games. But in that second half of the game, it just got brutal. The boss battles were so hard. And not only that, you had to get yourself at least 30 or 40 minutes into these boss fights to get yourself in a position to win. It was very unforgiving. You have to have specific loadouts, specific gems equipped to your characters, and you cannot make a mistake. Otherwise, it is game over. And unfortunately, the boss battle that I gave up on was in a location called Blue Grotto, where you have to have two characters in your party that you probably really wouldn't use at that point, or you aren't used to using. In my instance, they were a little bit underleveled. It was just, I don't know, it was sucking the joy out of this game for me, so I had to walk away. I feel bad because I probably will never go back to it and see this game through, but I still love Fantasian. It's a great game, but I just could not do it. Now, surprisingly, one game I never finished was Yakuza Like a Dragon. I've talked a lot about the Yakuza series over the last few months and how much I love this series, but the very first game that I played in the series was Yakuza Like a Dragon. And the thing that really hooked me into playing this game was the fact that this was a turn-based game. I was interested in this premise. I was interested in this kind of like series being reinvented in a way. And yeah, I started with Like a Dragon. I loved the game, and it was a really fun experience right up until the boss fight with Kiryu. Now, this was a rude awakening for me, because if you've played this game and you've seen this game through, and I've gone back and watched what happens after the boss fight and all the way through to the credits, so like I know what happens, but this is a fight that you don't even win. It's you finish the fight, but you don't actually win. This was super hard, and the strategy with this one is to have two of your characters be female characters, because Kiryu doesn't hit women, which fair enough. So I had to go through and do this side quest to try and recruit another female character to my party. I don't even remember her name, but I know it was through like the Ichiban confectionery or some sort of business side quest. She joins your party. You have the other girl in your party, and it's basically you try and manipulate the RNG in a way where you can win the fight, but I just couldn't do it. I couldn't go through and grind. I feel like I hit a specific point where I wasn't getting enough experience quick enough, and I would go into this Kiryu fight again and again, and I would just come out unsuccessful. So I actually ended up putting the game down and waiting almost a year to go through and watch what I missed from the end of that fight to the end of the game. Super compelling stuff. I regret not finishing it, but there is a hot off the presses confession. I never finished this game because this boss fight was too darn hard. And by the way, if you guys like weekly JRPG content, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, because exactly 91% of the people that watch my channel on the regular are not subscribed. It's free, supports the channel, and keeps you in tune with every video I release each week. Sadly, we have another Mistwalker game on this video, on this list today, and that is The Last Story. After playing Lost Odyssey, I was really interested in having a look back through Hironobu Sakaguchi's back catalog of games that he's made that aren't Final Fantasy, and just, giving them a try. I really enjoyed Lost Odyssey. I thought it was super interesting, and because I was waiting for Fantasian to come out, I thought, hey, let's go ahead and look at playing The Last Story. So I finally get my hands on this game. I start playing it. Battle system is weird. It's very, very strange. It's kind of this weird blend of real-time automated strategy, MMO, Final Fantasy 12 kind of thing, and I didn't really enjoy it, to be honest with you. So I kind of just got through. But the story was so bland and so boring. It kind of felt like the most generic approach to a story where you have this knight, this up-and-coming knight who wants to prove himself. He gets himself in this situation where he rescues a princess, and there's these bad guys that come. The bad guys are actually part of the royal thing, and then, I don't know, it was just so bland to me that I just couldn't care less about the story. And then, yeah, of course, coupled with that, the gameplay, I just had a hard time gelling with it. The Wii graphics haven't aged super well, even though I was playing this on my Steam Deck with some sharpeners and like an HD texture pack. It just didn't, I don't know, I just wasn't vibing with this game. Controls were a little bit clunky. I feel like I didn't have a lot of control over my characters in battle. I think a few of you guys have commented about this before when I've spoken about the last story before in some of my videos, saying maybe I wasn't approaching it the right way. But to me, when I'm not gelling with a game and I don't care enough about the game, I'm really trying to do the bare minimum to try and get through to at least see what happens with the story. And honestly, after a certain point, I quit. I don't care. I honestly couldn't care less about the story or what happened. I know it's very savage, and I know there are a lot of you guys out there who actually love the last story, and fair enough, but this really was just not the game for me. Okay, this next one is a game or series that I actually regret not finishing, and that is the Dot Hack series. The first game in the series is Dot Hack Infection, and more or less the story is you play as somebody who gets stuck in an MMO. This is what I remember, and I actually do want to go back to this series, but I finished Dot Hack Infection. This is part 1 of 4 of the series, and I whether it was I just kind of lost interest once I got to Dot Hack Mutation, which I believe was the second game in the series, or they were just hard to find, and especially if you guys look these games up now, they are very, very pricey. If you can get your hands on them, and cheaply enough, I encourage you to do so. But what really drove me to play these games was the fact that they had pack-in DVDs, which kind of told a story that filled in the gaps where people just got stuck in the MMO or they got glued to their headsets. I don't actually remember a whole lot about the series, but I really, really want to get back into it. I feel like the gameplay was a little bit hard to get into because you had to navigate this MMO world where you had this hub world, and then you had to put in certain codes or commands to actually go from the hub world to the field, I think, and it just got a little bit cumbersome navigating that. And I feel like once I got to the second installment, whether it was again losing interest or I just stopped playing it for some reason, and this is like almost 15 or so years ago, so I kind of like drawing a blank on why, but I regret not finishing it because I felt that the premise here was super, super interesting. And I was actually a really huge fan of the Dot Hack animes at the time. I think there was 2 of them, and I was actually reading the manga as well, so I was very much into it, and I just dropped Dot Hack for whatever reason, and I actually regret it. This is the one that I regret not finishing the most on this video today, so I'm hoping that I can get back to it at some stage this year and finish the entire series because it has a very interesting premise and I want to see it through. And last on the list today is a game that a lot of you guys probably have high praise for, and that is Vagrant Story. Now, this came to me at an interesting time because I was playing this after my son was born. I was playing this on my PSP Go, so it was just kind of at a strange time for me, put it this way. I had heard a lot of hype about this game, and I was super interested to check it out, so I finally booted it up, and I had just remembered that this game was kind of set in that Ivalice setting, that Final Fantasy 12 world where things just, I don't know, are just a little bit different and more old school in terms of vibe and feel, more Renaissance-y, I guess. I know that's a very loose term and that's the only thing I can think of, so you have to bear with me. But overall, the thing that really just made me not love this game were the controls and the environment as well. You go through and you navigate these smaller areas, and I felt like the controls were super, super clunky and hard to navigate, especially on a PSP Go of all things. Also, the battle system, or whatever combat system was implemented here, was kind of strange for me because you can target enemies and pick specific points where you want to hit, whether you're trying to figure out, weak points, whether it's a right arm or left arm or a head or a body or something like that. I just felt it was really uninteresting to me. I get what they were trying to go for, and I do respect it and appreciate it for what it is, and maybe at that time when this game came out it was groundbreaking, but this is one that I actually missed. Do I want to go back to it? Yes, I kind of do. I feel like I want to hit this game with a fresh perspective, or maybe at least play it on original hardware instead of like a PSP Go, because sometimes if you don't really love a game or gel with a game, it is kind of situational as well. Maybe you're not in the right frame of mind or anything else, or maybe you're not playing on the right system as well. But it seemed interesting enough, but I actually didn't make it more than an hour into the game. I felt that it was a bit drab, a bit bland, and I don't really like these games that are set in Ivalice, and that extends over to Final Fantasy XII as well. But Vagrant Story, it's a game that I always thought was going to be interesting, and I always thought was going to be okay, considering it was pretty well hyped up, but I just never got into it. Maybe I'll get back into it one day. So that's it for my list of games that I've walked away from for one reason or another. There are actually a few more now that I think of it, but we'll cap it at these few today. So don't forget to like and subscribe. Let me know your games that you walked away from as well down below in the comments, and we'll see you again on another video next week. Bye-bye.